There are so many of you out there that I see making content online, and your representation of previous cultures anthropologically is abysmal. Now hang on, no shade to some of you, because I think it has to do with topical as in recent trends and discussions. I have a video series I'm not going to release until after the May 13th MK Ultra testimony. Instead, I'm going to leave this video here regarding Berserker. I've often on the channel been harassed by people who do not read. They have been fear-mongered by symbols, math, etymology of language, and they're terrified. Every 5 minutes, it's always something new that's recent, especially with all the Epstein files and Satanism this and feminists are evil and only the good Christians living in sackcloth are worth living and craziness with the ooze. And I'm just being generic. I don't believe any of that. It doesn't matter. It's just out there all the time. So for 200 years, I wish to point out, they said it was a mushroom that they were eating, that they went out and foraged by themselves and became this intensely crazy fighter person. And I can't tell you how many times these Christians that scream and yell about witches and the Hebrew definition of witches are people who cut roots. These same Christian screamers about that, they're sucking down Tylenol and every drug that their pharmakia is given to them by the white-coated priest class that we call doctors. It's very convenient to view history through lenses that you just kind of flip in and out. You're not looking at the real situation on the ground at the time that it happened. It's always through the lens of where you are now, what you know, and your biases, and that's human psychology, okay? So after this MK Ultra hearing, I'm very hopeful that I'm wrong. Always am. But if I'm not, I want this video here as a preview to common sense, human integrity, and human decency. So here's your Berserker class, pulled from certain eugenics known bloodlines in the villages, given very specific drugs that were made by their own people to fight in a certain way. And after they got done fighting for their village, if they made it home, they were murdered by their village people. The people they lived with there in the village took them out, couldn't rely on them. They had post-traumatic stress that was a little big with the nervous system. They could go into a rage and mow down people. Can't have that in the village. They're only good enough to be fed drugs and used to fight for the village, bring the village resources, and then they get murdered by the very people they protected. So better to go out like a warrior and get to Valhalla. If you do not study history, you are doomed to repeat it. Most people's history starts the year they were born. Rush Limbaugh on the last one. The Flexner Report, what's that? That's when the Rockefellers decided that pharmakia is the only way to heal the human body and wiped out 130 years of botany, herbs and root cutting, that were specific to food that we eat as humans, is supposed to be organic and natural to our environment, not imported 50% plastic and a bunch of other synthetic materials and chemicals nobody can pronounce. Additionally, pharmakia and cutting you open for surgery is supposed to be for acute care, a car accident, something terrible in the moment that, a tumor or a gangrenous infection, etc. Instead, we are drugged constantly, start to finish. And this is acceptable now. It wasn't when I was 16 and a waitress. Now it is. When I was 16 and waitressing, my manager couldn't even give me a Tylenol. Now we just shove drugs down everyone's throat as early as 2 years old. with the justification that the white coat knows better. So we threw out centuries of neurology knowledge, immune system knowledge. It was removed. Universities and colleges that had been there for over 100 years, destroyed with the Flexner Report by the Rockefeller Foundations. And at the same time they did that, a chunk of human anatomy was removed from common knowledge and turned into a spiritual, fear-mongering fantasy. That human anatomy is 80% of your immune system by the mean, median, and mode of the internal and all organs involved of the body. No knowledge, no idea how the immune system works, because they took it. They hid it in research and development. So when you hear people go off on a tear about MK Ultra and traumatic abuse, you better start looking at anthropology in different cultures. And you had better be real careful judging all these cultures and people throughout history, worldwide, and oversimplifying and tribalizing, pointing fingers. If I were you, I would step back and take a real hard look at how long people have been manipulated by logistics. They didn't send the berserkers in there because they were just out of options. They were starving. If their men didn't get on the ship and go find trade routes and food, they starved to death. Agriculture was okay, but there was still a lot of trouble in these different villages. That's why they fought at all. So again, if we're going to talk MK Ultra, but we're going to leave out what we've been doing to people with our peripheral nervous system, and we're going to leave out our current healthcare system, our warfare doctrine, electronic warfare, logging into human bodies like it ain't no big deal for decades now, right now, but we're going to continue to fear monger. Look what they did. They drugged people with LSD. Between 1953 and 1973, they did bad things that any of us could read about right now in the CIA reading room. And then you're going to say, but the church hearings, they took care of that. Everybody knows that's horseshit. Everybody, right? Apparently not. Apparently everybody's still walking around pretending that the human biofield that's part of our electrophysiology, biophysics, doesn't exist. It only exists if you have the right religion. It's amazing. It's a piece of human anatomy, like an internal organ, like your skin, your interstitium, your fascia, connective tissue. Nah, it doesn't exist. Wow. You got the wrong religion. If you're in a religion that doesn't acknowledge that the body's electrical, photonic, and magnetic, well, apparently you don't have a heartbeat, you don't have blood flow. The dynamic blood flow of the body is part of what contributes to that biological field going out on a wave of amplitude away from your body. It's natural. It's your heartbeat, your blood flow, your interpulse interval. All these different systems make sound. And it's real small, but it's easily measurable for hundreds of years. Here we all still are. Hey, my body's electrical. Not unless you have the right religion. Sorry, I don't believe in my nerves. I don't believe in my liver. And if I don't believe in my liver and I don't believe in my nervous system, it doesn't exist. I have the wrong religion. Where are the atheists and the humanists? How does your Fitbit work? Intra-body communication. You want to start talking about that, given it's the PlayStation, augmented reality, and all these other things that everybody's using. Drive a drone with my mind at the toy shop. Anybody? The Mendy IO headset for behavior modification on the morning news shows with neurologists and children. The vagal nerve stimulators, HOW. Remember, your body's not electrical. You don't believe in that biology. You got to have the right religion. This type of ridiculousness is causing massive problems across the board. People are literally terrified. Every 5 minutes, it's something new. It doesn't need to be this way, but people need to stop pretending their body is not electrical and that some regulatory body has the ability to go out there and remove human anatomy from known existence simply because they said so. Just like Japanese foot binding and other types of physical body modification, tribes in Africa, New Zealand, all over the world, eventually, if it interferes like Japanese foot binding with biotensegrity, the way you walk in your circulatory system, your vasculature, then they say, it's causing more problems than doing good, and we're doing it for aesthetic reasons or whatever. So I guess we better quit doing that. That is what I'm submitting to all of you out there that damn well know what interbody communication is. You're out there telling people religions, MK Ultra. Okay. Trauma-based mind control. Welcome to neurology. Where's that discussion? Nowhere. Why? Because we never stop with the fear-mongering. So, welcome to trauma-based mind control, bizarre care, drugs, wow, and to social status hierarchy, where you're only as good as the blood that you carry in order to please the king, bring the logistics, and do what you're told unto your death. Where's that discussion? Be very careful out there when it comes to people who are promising you they have all the answers, but they're unable to address our current healthcare 4 and 5.0, fully deployed, and ongoing deployment, and our network-centric warfare, which includes Pentagon Directive 3009 for drone targeting. Or do you not believe in drones either? Welcome to your peripheral nervous system, connected to the cloud. You used to call it the aura. That's the human biofield. They hid it in R&D after the Flexner report, used it in electronic warfare ever since. So, Lockheed and Boeing, are they broke? Northrop Grumman? No. Do we have impact levels at the Department of War right now with our L3 Harris and our electronic warfare divisions, plural? Yeah. And what are we doing here? We're going to go talk about MK Ultra. Interesting. We'll see how that goes. In the meantime, I think it's time to bring anthropology and some history into the mixture here so that this time we have comprehension instead of full-on panic and fear, because that's what they're doing. Everywhere I look, it's nothing but fear-mongering. So let's bring some education here, shall we? Mark 5:36, amen.